Okay. A lot of recent graduates are looking to try their hand at blockchain development. I mean, with the Web 2. EO scene getting pretty crowded and competitive. They're hoping to find some opportunities in the Web 3. EO space. A while back, one of my students figured out a way to hustle on those freelancing platforms, taking gigs for overseas teams. They ended up making pretty good money. Then they noticed. Nowadays, besides the usual EVM chains like Ethereum, Solana is pretty hot in the market for app development. I know what you're thinking, Solana is tough. What? You have to learn Rust. I don't have any background. So how am I supposed to learn? I've got something that's super easy and you actually don't need to learn Rust for. Seriously, if you're just looking to develop Solana project, you don't really need to learn Rust to develop apps on Solana. Hi, crypto isn't just for programmers. I'm Jita. On this channel, I'll help you go from a beginner to a Web3 professional. If you enjoy this content, make sure to subscribe to our channel and don't forget to give me a like. If you want to stay in the Web3 market long term, the best way is to improve your skills and become a Web3 app developer. Head over to our homepage. I'll guide you step by step. Bunch of Web3 tech bloggers have started making videos about Solana recently, especially some of the tech-focused ones. But the thing is, they're all learning Rust without exception. Actually, you know me well. You'd know I put together a whole series of videos on it like 3 months ago. We're specifically teaching everyone how to build dApps on Solana. But instead of using Rust, we're using Python. Yep, you heard that right. Python can also be used to create smart contracts on Solana. Use this framework called Seahorse for that. Our channel should be the most comprehensive one for talking about Seahorse, whether it's in the Chinese-speaking or English-speaking areas. But here's the thing, this question has really been on my mind. I don't really have much time to learn a new language, especially something like Rust that's a bit tough to grasp and read. But Python's different. A lot of my friends already taught themselves Python back in college. Learning Python is super quick. Like just 1-2 days. You can already understand it and write scripts for your needs. Compared to Rust, you'll be writing 1-2 times less code for the same tasks. Plus you don't have to stress about messing things up. They have an editor. So in the end, our Python code gets compiled into Rust code through the Seahorse framework. That means the security is pretty much on par with Rust since the code is actually in Rust. The first group consists of beginners in blockchain development. If you're into blockchain development but don't have a strong programming background, if you haven't worked with Rust yet, Seahorse is a great place to start. You just need to know some Python. You can start developing Solana smart contracts. It's especially great for folks who have only worked in Web 2 before and now want to dive into the Web 3 space. Python is easy to learn. You can use that skill to jump into blockchain development. The second group is developers who already have some programming skills but want to dive into the Solana ecosystem quickly. These folks might know other languages like JavaScript, Go, or Python. If you don't have time to get into Rust deeply, this applies to you. You want to dive into Solana development quickly. Seahorse is a great option. It lets you build Solana apps in a language you're already comfortable with, so you don't have to worry about the time it takes to learn a whole new language. The third type is freelancers looking to pick up gigs on outsourcing platforms. Like the student I mentioned earlier, Seahorse has given them a great opportunity. They're taking jobs on international platforms and using Python to develop Solana smart contracts for clients. With the growing demand for Solana development, there aren't many developers with Seahorse skills, which makes them more competitive when it comes to getting hired. A lot of people are worried about this. Will they be able to find jobs? It really depends on market demand. Right now, Solana's ecosystem is growing fast, with a ton of new apps and projects popping up. Many companies and project teams are looking for Solana developers. It's also on the rise. While Rust is the officially recommended language, the reality is that companies care more about results basically. Can you deliver a stable, reliable smart contract? And that's where smart contracts written in Seahorse for Solana come in. Basically, it all gets compiled down to Rust code in the end. So technically speaking, the code you wrote in Python is just as good as the contracts developed in Rust. Plus, like I mentioned earlier about that student, they're taking on jobs through freelancing platforms, using Python to develop Solana projects, and making pretty good money. Some startups are even rushing to launch their products right now. They aren't as strict about the programming language. As long as you can meet their needs with Python, you'll still get an offer. So, don't worry too much about the language requirements. What really matters is whether you can actually deliver the product. The Solana community is super open to different development tools. As the Solana ecosystem keeps getting better, tools like Seahorse are just going to get adopted more and more. So as long as you've got the skill down, you're in a good spot. There's definitely an opportunity for you in the market. If you want to learn about developing on the Solana chain and their EVM chain, make sure to follow our channel for more related content. If you'd like to join our community, you can visit our website, where you'll find a link to join our Discord server. See you there.